Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
When you share your food, you share your heart. So what's on your table this holiday season? Save on your festive feast at Kroger with delicious deals on all the holiday classics. Or wow the crowd with something new, like a quinoa stuffed butternut squash. It's sure to add a pop of color to your spread. How about a sweet potato casserole with a crunchy oat streusel topping, made with care for the sweet tooth and the savory tooth? With Kroger, fill your table with love and watch as your guests' hearts get as full as their bellies. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
For over 50 years, Burlington's legacy has been great deals on coats for all weather conditions. So before you're caught unprepared for the winter weather, head to Burlington for name brands, quality items, and surprising fits for every family member. Stock up on coats, sweaters, and accessories before the cold hits, so you can finally stop avoiding the elements and start living comfortably. Warm up at your nearest Burlington location less than 1 mile away. Burlington. Deals, brands, wow.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
Hey all you heroes, hawks, heralds, crows, pirates, and wardens. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and galaxy brain about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe, from character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods. We will cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast. I am one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup, and you may notice that there's no one who spoke after me, and that's because Shelby, or Shecup, is feeling under the weather, and so she's not with us for this episode. So you all get to take this journey with me, which that's okay because we are back with our monthly patron chat. So I am not here alone. No, you will not hear me monologue about Dragon Age lore or anything like that. Instead, we'll be talking with our patrons. And so I'll let the patrons introduce themselves, and I'll start with LVCC13.
Hello, everyone. I am LVCC13, or Lizzie.
And then we have the Crimson Knight.
I'm the Crimson Knight, or Steven.
And then CW Rogers.
Hello, I am Charles, or CW Rogers 6 in the Discord.
And then Wild Kiwi.
Hey guys, it's Kierwin, or Wild Kiwi in the Discord.
Then Capricorn Tower.
This is Capricorn Tower, or Nick.
And then last but not least, we have Ambrosian.
Hello, I am Jay, or Ambrosian.
All right. And so we're here. Thank you all for being here for our patron chat. This is our second episode since the release of Dragon Age, the Veilguard. And so that means we've had the game for 2 weeks. And so naturally, as we all expected this, we're going to be talking about the Veilguard, specifically which companion has been your favorite so far. Now, I will preface this. We are going to try to keep away from any major spoilers, but this is your warning. If you don't want to be spoiled about anything, even like the names of companions, this is not the episode. Go play the game, then come back and listen to this episode. We can do that. So again, the question is, which companion has been your favorite so far? And I think we already have someone who wants to go first.
That would be me. So I'm not very far yet. So all of this is subject to major change. But, going into Act 1, my favorite is Nev. I really like how cynical and sort of aloof she is. And I think it's interesting because, we've had this type of character before. We've had Morrigan, we've had Vivienne, but Nev still feels very distinct from those two. And I appreciate that sort of diversity in writing, that she's able to stand on her own and be this sort of person who's not very upfront about things, but you can tell is also a good person. So far, Nev is my favorite, and we'll see how things shake out for the rest of the game.
I definitely Morgan vibes with Nev, but it's like in my impression, very much like a cross between Josephine and Liliana and Morgan altogether.
I could see that.
I just want to know who does her hats so bad. I want all of her hats.
There was one armor that when Shelby was playing, she literally just said, "Nev, that is a charger," like a table charger that you would.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, like that is not a hat. But anyway, I did not do my due diligence, and I forgot. Shelby normally lists when we have options. She lists what all the options are, and so I'm going to do that really quick. Your options of companions that we know, obviously. We have Nev, Emmerich, Balara, Davrin, Lucanus, which it is Lucanus, Tosh, and Harding. And so those are our 7 companions.
I'll go next. Okay, so my favorite companion is Lucanus. Aside from his gorgeous lopsided smile and his perfectly tailored clothes and his want to lean up all into Rook's personal space, which definitely just makes her swoon. I really just love his personality. He wants to take care of everyone and make sure that everyone eats well, But beyond even that, my very, very favorite thing about him is his sense of being so incredibly baffled at the stories people ask him regarding the crows during party banter. Like especially Tosh with their, "I heard this about the crows. Oh, but wait, can you do this?" And his response is always just like, "What? No, we just stab people. Why would we do that? That seems like so much effort."
Yeah, I just got one of those today. In playing through of Tosh asking Lucanus, like, "Oh, have you ever killed a Qunari with this thing?" And Lucanus is like, "Why would I do that when I could just stab them?"
That's pretty much exactly right. Like he's so tired, and he's like, "I don't understand why I would go through the effort of doing all of this. I just no."
Love though that when Tosh is then like, "Oh, so you can't do it?" He's like, "No, I could. But why?"
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation of all the companions. Like if Origin's companions are young, except for Wynn. DA2 are chaotic bisexuals. Dragon Age Inquisition is the A team, the rich kids, the people who are very important in the world. Veilguard for me is tired. I feel like everyone is tired.
I think the companions grow with the player base as they're playing the games when they come out.
All right. So we've got one vote for Nev. We've got one vote for Lucanus. Who wants to go next?
I will. As much as I love Lucanus, because I did romance him in my first playthrough, very good romance, loved it. I think Harding is actually my favorite companion. I loved her in Inquisition. I always, when I would play it the first like 10 times I played Inquisition, because we've all played it a million times at this point, I would always stop and talk to Harding, and now I love that we've gotten to get to know her better. She's so funny, and she's a lot more sarcastic than we kind of got to know in Inquisition. We got a little bit of a taste of that in like the Frostback Basin DLC, but in this one, she's so funny. I really just love her, and she, especially if you're playing a more sarcastic Rook, she will play off of you with that, and it's so funny, and she's just so adorable. I love her.
I love the dynamic shift of the Inquisitor being Harding's boss and Rook being Harding's friend. I think that's very clear in how the character has approached both of these people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a general like feel that is big with Harding, is that she is not just the scout anymore. Like, I mean, that is like the role that she fills, but I feel like she is more in line with like Cass from DAI, because like Cassandra is a companion, but she's also like a quasi advisor as well.
Honestly, without getting into any sort of spoilers for the context, some of my absolute favorite scenes in the Veilguard so far have been the conference room scenes. The scenes where everybody's just sitting around a table having a discussion. I am so locked into those scenes. And I think it's the strength of all of the different companions playing off each other.
Yes. There's a series of them that you can do when you do Regrets of the Dreadwolf, which if you have not done that quest, as you're slowly moving through and all of that stuff, definitely do it. It is probably one of my favorite quests outside of the entirety of Act 3. But
also makes a certain thing much, much easier. Do the quest.
Yes, it does. Which reminds me, Lizzie, I'll tell you, if you wait to do things, you can even make the regrets even easier. Basically, if you wait to do the final confrontation of Regrets of the Dreadwolf, after you've finished Balara's quest completely, you can auto succeed on what you have to do to avoid the end fight of that quest.
Hey, mental note, trying that this playthrough.
Yeah, I need the weapon that you can get from that, because I play on a harder difficulty, so I can't wait. But apparently, if you complete Balara's quest, it makes that easier, because what you do in that is enough to auto success. That's a lot of code, but now everyone's intrigued.
Yeah,
I enjoyed your efforts there.
DM me that instructions on that for later, because I might need that a little more clarification.
I will. Okay. So we're pretty split. So who wants to go next?
I can go next. I'm going to be casting my vote for Nev Gallus. And the reason goes all the way back to the core concept for each character. That for me, most of the characters are very tied into their jobs and their roles in the world. Davrin is a very Grey Warden. Like, his character is intricately tied into his role as a Grey Warden. Emmerich is very tied into his role as a Morn Watcher. And a lot of these are ones we've either seen before or we've seen the archetype in fantasy stories usually. So characters like Emmerich, who's a necromancer, or Tosh, who's a pirate / dragon hunter, even if we've never seen them in Dragon Age before, they're kind of common fantasy staples. Nev's a detective. And not just a detective, she's like a Sherlock Holmes consulting detective, private eye type character. Right from the get-go, I was already intrigued by what they were going to do with her story, because it was going to be tied into that particular job that she does. And that felt like such an interesting breath of fresh air for me, especially after Dragon Age Inquisition, where every companion was basically representative of their entire faction within the Inquisition. Nev did not disappoint. I have not finished the game, but nobody has managed to beat her yet for my favorite. Not even the man that I am currently hooking up with has still not managed to beat out Nev for my favorite of the companions. Mm-hmm. So I just love her concept. I love her execution. As Capricorn Tower was saying, she's got so much depth that she feels like she should be a rehash of characters that we've already seen, but she's not. And I love her a great deal, and her hats. She is fantastic.
Yeah. I will say this. There were a lot of, I really enjoyed the companion quest, like the actual quests. And I really enjoyed the mechanic in this. There are companion conversations and then there are companion quests, which I enjoyed that kind of thing of basically knowing what I was getting into. Like, oh, I can go do this and then do what I want to if it's just a conversation. But if it's a quest, no, that's more of a commitment. But there is one Nev quest that opens like a crime drama, and I loved that.
As someone who has watched an ungodly amount of Law and Order and Psych and all of Castle and all of these crime shows from particularly the late 2000s, I very much appreciate it. I am not going to get into it because we are not going to talk about either her companion questline or any of the scenes you can get, but I loved a lot of them. And I also will say this I can talk about without it necessarily being a spoiler. The degree to which Nev is tied into her community and the way in which that manifests in the writing of the character and how she interacts with both her personal quest and the way she talks about Minrathous elsewhere, you can really feel like she's somebody who loves the people in her community. Like, she's not just a part of Docktown, she loves Docktown, which is another really great, strong element to her character that I liked a lot.
Right. There are several times where Nev will say, like, not in my city, or this is my city, or something like that. And I get such Green Arrow flashbacks.
It reminds...
really makes sense why she's a shadow dragon, knowing what we know about how the shadow dragons were formed and who, in fact, formed them in the first place. It makes so much sense that Nev loves her city so much.
Honestly, the companion that I have the most similar opinion of to Nev is probably Aveline. Because I think a lot of the things, now that I think about it, a lot of the things that made me like Nev from the get-go can also apply to Aveline. Because guards are a common part of fantasy stories, but we almost never get one as a main character in the story in the way that we got Aveline. And she's also deeply tied into the community in Kirkwall while also being a refugee. Yeah, I think that's part of why I like Nev so much too, is I really love Aveline, and they have very similar thoughts behind the writing of them.
Oh, would they like each other though? I feel like they'd like each other's personalities, but on principle, Aveline would just be like, but no, that's a guard's job.
I feel like they would have a Sherlock Holmes and Inspector Lestrade relationship, or Gregson relationship. That's, you know what? I'm going to go write this fan fiction now. Just kidding. I kind of already did about 10 years ago, but we're not going to talk about my Dragon Age fan fiction writing days and things I may or may not have written involving detective fiction. We're just going to move on very quickly from that.
Okay.
So I read that fic. It was excellent.
I'm leaving now.
Okay, anyway, we're just going to sail right on past that. So I think now would be a great time for our mid-break, and then we'll come in, and anyone who hasn't gone, which I believe includes me and Steven and probably one other.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting. Go to your happy place for a happy price with Priceline's Black Friday sale. Save now and travel later with our best deals of the year.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
For over 50 years, Burlington's legacy has been great deals on coats for all weather conditions. So before you're caught unprepared for the winter weather, Head to Burlington for name brands, quality items, and surprising fits for every family member. Stock up on coats, sweaters, and accessories before the cold hits, so you can finally stop avoiding the elements and start living comfortably. Warm up at your nearest Burlington location less than 1 mile away. Burlington. Deals, brands, wow.
What is this? A new book? All this shit is weird. Oh, Varric, that is a terrible title. What are you even thinking?
That book you were reading this morning, Assyrian Spear. I don't think he had a spear in the legends.
He does in this one. Read the description.
Andraste knelt before no man but her maker. But she hadn't counted on the Archon Hessarian. Can Hessarian penetrate the tight-knit defenses of the warrior prophetess? Will she be prepared to face the full blast of his power? Wait a minute. Isabella, this is a vulgar thing.
You want to borrow it?
No!
You sure? It has pictures.
Not listening, I'm not listening.
Varric, does Hawk ever autograph books?
Why? Doesn't your copy of The Tale of the Champion have a big hole in it?
Yes, but it could also have Hawk's signature on it.
So, welcome to the middle of the show where we take time to thank our patrons. Thank you to all of our patrons. A special thank you to our first patrons, Lisa M. and Genesis. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/DALorecast. You can go there and sign up and support us there. And if you sign up at the first Enchanter tier, you can come on these shows. Also, our DA Day giveaway has been announced. We will be doing another giveaway, and signing up for the Patreon is another way to get that entry in there. So if you wanted an additional entry in one of the giveaways, you can do that there. You do get a free entry all the way, but the more you do, the more entries you get, the more likely you get a prize. And then more details on that on next week's episode. Yeah, next week's episode when we air that, and Shelby is here to talk more about that. Also, you can support us by leaving us ratings and reviews on Apple or Spotify. I do not have any to read out today, but if you leave us 5 stars and a rating or comment, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. So yeah, if you want to give us a review, please do. We greatly appreciate it. Great way to support the show. Lastly, come hang out with us on Discord. We're all on Discord. If you want to talk about Dragon Age, the Veilguard, you can come onto Discord. We have spoiler marked channels and spoiler free channels, so you can talk as much as you want and do all that. Share what you liked, what you didn't like, all that kind of stuff. Find like-minded people who might think similar, might think differently. It's okay. Come hang out with the Discord. It's a great place to be. And with that, that's all I have for the middle of the show. And so we can get back into it.
The past years have been so busy. We have earned at least a few moments of rest. A calm night out sounds... Oh, bravo! Bravo! Was the woman in gold playing a king? Who was the man in feathers? Oh, it's all very simple. The first actor's mask is determined by... well, I will lend you the program guide. But tell me, did you enjoy the performance? That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Truly. That part with the glittery, and they actually set fire to... Yes, I truly enjoyed it. Then I call tonight a great success.
I've got some of it written down now.
Give it here. Her breasts strained against the leather jerkin like 2 wild stallions corralled against their will. She pounced, the smooth moves of a jungle cat, and locked her thighs around Donnick's waist. He...
What?
Nothing. What is that?
Isabella just thought she'd celebrate your love affair with a written dedication.
It's friend fiction. I do it out of love.
I will never, ever be clean again.
Oh, you fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
All right, so who would like to go next?
I guess I'll go. For me, so far, I'm only in Act 2, but at this point in time, my favorite is Emmerich. And I honestly don't think that's going to change because as soon as I recruited him, I was just like, yeah, he's going to be my favorite. Just his introduction with the skull mask, and he's just like, oh, let me take that off real quick. And of course, he has Manfred with him, which is a bonus in his favor. And the fact that he's a Morn Watcher, I've always had an interest in cultures where they have an underworld or land of the dead. And so just him being involved in that has put him above everyone else so far for me.
Yeah, he does have a great intro, and I really loved Emmerich. As someone in our Discord once said, Emmerich is proof that Twink does not have an age category.
I did not read that. I need to go back and find that.
I need to know who said that.
I can tell you, not live on the show.
Okay.
I can tell you who said it.
Okay.
I think I have a guess.
It was two people who are
who
pretty
said
active in the Discord. And when I tell you, it will not surprise me.
Okay.
Okay, I think I know who it was.
If you want to know what we're talking about, hey, maybe it's time to join the Discord.
You should. It's fun. We're chaos, mayhem.
Anyway, but I also love Emmerich, and I love the Grand Necropolis. It is not as shiny as I anticipated it to be. I was just picturing a really, really almost whitewashed stoned room or whatever, but it was not that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but are we not down in under the ground?
I can never tell because you go outside.
It's really hard to tell because there's codex entries that talk about the falling sand and that sand keeps falling on the necropolis. I'm not going to say what the rest of it is, but it specifically talks about it falling. But I'm also really unclear if we're underground under the necropolis, if we're in a really... Christ, I'm going to get myself in trouble again. If we're in a really big hole, I don't know. I don't know where we are, so it's entirely possible. It is very unclear. It is possible we are in the basement. I don't know. I have no answer.
I feel like it's a possibility that part of it is above ground and then it kind of just gradually goes underground. Because I feel like what we can explore in the game wouldn't be nearly the size of what the Grand Necropolis would actually be.
We're just in a giant hourglass, and that makes sense for it being the necropolis.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that.
That explains the falling sand.
Plus the whole life is limited time paradox thing with that. It's very poetic.
Right.
It's all wibbly wobbly.
Well, I guess there's only two of us left. So either you or me, impression.
I guess I could go. I mean, I feel like some may have assumptions as to who my favorite would be, given who I have talked about being my favorite character in the series several times in the Discord. But it would have to be Lucanus, mostly because, one, I really like the crows. I think he kind of helps give more depth to them. So do other side characters that appear. But you get more depth to what we had assumed the crows were like based off of the information that we get in Origins, which I would say is pretty limited. I mean, he's funny. They're all funny, but I like that they put the little details in there where you have a character who pays attention to other characters' preferences for food and other things around the lighthouse, and how he pays attention to what people tell him and he remembers what you tell him. I don't know how they code that into games, but I like that they took the time to put those smaller details into one specific character so they feel more fleshed out.
I also really appreciate, and I forgot to say when I was waxing on about Lucanus, I really, really like that Spite is just a petulant toddler, and we get more and more of his personality as we get to know him as well.
I really appreciated just in that, like, because naturally we have gotten a spirit or possessed person in every slew of companions. But I really appreciate that Spite is funny.
Yes, finally one with a sense of humor. Like, I mean, Cole is very funny, but Cole is not purposefully funny. Spite is funny.
Imagine that there actually being humor and characters both cracking jokes and delivering things with comedic timing. Couldn't be a whole bunch of the party banter in Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. Couldn't be Alistair, anyway.
Well, I mean, it gives more depth to certain characters who are considered abominations, because in the past, most of the time, not all the time, but because Wynn is different, but characters like Anders, where that's a little more chaotic, a little more dangerous, but the chaos that you see with Spite is very different. And it's funny. It's not war crime different. It's more, he's probably going to put a thumbtack under your chair very so that when you stand up, you
or
step on
Legos.
it. Yeah, like Spite would spill Legos on the floor.
Very minor spoilers for the end game, but there is a unique dialogue you can have in near Act 3 if you take Lucanus to talk to Solus. And Spite talks to Solus, and it's really funny.
Yes, that is one of my favorite dialogue sections in the game. It is hilarious. Yeah.
I feel like Spite and Sarah would get along famously, and they would all they would want to just go do pranks together, and they would be best friends.
That energy would be too powerful. We cannot get them in the same room.
No, not allowed. Nope.
I need Emmerich and Sarah to interact, because like Emmerich is such a proper gentleman and Sarah is the opposite.
Plus, you know, her whole I hate magic thing oh my gosh, that would be freaking great.
Maybe I'll write that fanfic.
But can you imagine like Sarah warring with herself because she wants to be friends with Spite, but he's a demon?
I don't think she's so afraid of anything related to the Fade and magic that I don't know if she would interact. Like even her interactions with Cole are so limited.
Could Sarah even set foot in the lighthouse?
Probably not.
Let's be honest.
Not
is she making
willingly.
it through the door? No, she's not doing it willingly.
Especially since
not unless she's got a chance to punch Solus in the face. Like if she thinks there's a chance to do that, she would set foot there. But otherwise, no.
Also, I needed Sarah to come into this game solely for the purpose of I needed her to call Solus an egg so that we have it in canon. Because she would do it.
That would be perfect.
But anyway. It is
EA just sent out an email asking for people to take a survey to tell them about the game. So we can tell them to add that.
I'm very mad about it. I didn't get it. Anyway, it's my turn, which means it's also Shelby's turn, which our answer is the same. It's Davrin for me. And I think that I love Davrin so much. And I didn't romance him in the first playthrough. I romanced Balara just because she initially caught my eye and all of that. But I love Davrin. And even without a son, I would love Davrin because he is so emotionally intelligent. And there's a point in the Regrets of the Dreadwolf scenes where they discover something about the elves, and they're all like, "Oh, we have to tell everyone." And then Davrin's like, "No, this will be bad for all the elves." And I just appreciate that he is so emotionally intelligent and he is so thoughtful. And I actually, him and Tosh didn't come with me a lot on my first playthrough just because I was a warrior and we had matching abilities and I couldn't get any combos off, and that just wasn't going to fly. But yeah, I love Davrin and Shelby loves Davrin for similar reasons and other that. And I just feel like we have two elf companions in this thing and they are so different from each other.
I also love, though, that with both of our Dalish elf companions, because they are both Dalish, that they're representing the full spectrum of like the Dalish elf experience almost, because you have someone who's very into the culture and is like soaked themselves in it and wants to learn more, and then another who left but still has great respect for it and still cares about his people in general. I really love how, even though they don't always have the same opinions on everything, how they're still so connected that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think we are ready to wrap up. So the last thing that I want to say is like, if you are waiting to play this game and you're like, I need to read some material to prepare, I once again cannot recommend that you read Tevinter Nights enough. It is the perfect setup for this game and to understand all the moving pieces. After that, I would read Last Flight. And then if you really want to get a really, really deep cut reference and lore drop, read The Masked Empire.
I just want to really fast, if it's okay, can I do an honorable mention?
Yes, please.
Because I did have an honorable mention to Tosh, who has not really been mentioned in this call. But Tosh surprised the hell out of me. And I feel like I can't talk about their character at all. Just to say, when I experienced the character in game, I can see why the creative team really liked writing for them. That's all I'm going to say. Honorable mention to Tosh, who has not been mentioned, but I wound up loving.
Right. I totally agree with that. And all of these companions across the board, Balara, Tosh, these are the ones who didn't get mentioned, or I mentioned Balara a little bit, but like didn't get votes in there. They're all so well written. Like the margin of like who is my favorite is such a small one. These are some of my favorite companions. I mean, I will admit that like there are times that just because I've spent more time with the Inquisition companions and the Dragon Age 2 companions, that they hold a bigger place in my heart. But there are some really, really great companions, and the stories are heartbreaking and meaningful and stressful. Davrin's Quest is stressful.
I really like that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I really like that of all of the Dragon Age games, like all of our companions are, typical tropey fantasy type companions. But this game, the companions seem more relatable and more real world. Like they have real world journeys and real world problems and discoveries. And it just makes them seem so much more like people you could actually meet out in the world, as opposed to just being a video game companion.
Yeah.
They're also emotionally mature adults who I like being around.
Right. Like
that is
such a novel sensation.
There was one thing about like romancing Balara that made me feel like I might be too old for this romance. Is one thing that I said about that. But that's just me, but my go-to companions, my first playthrough were Balara and Lucanus, which led to a lot of conversations about food and cooking, which I loved. So there is
those were great. Theirs. I didn't know that could happen to potatoes. It's a learning experience.
But
I also love how anytime cooking and Harding are mentioned, you could just see the collective shudder going around everyone.
But anyway, we can go around and do our shout outs and then we can wrap up. So we'll start with LVCC 13.
I am LVCC 13. You can find me on Discord and you can also find me on Twitch. Now that I'm A, no longer sick, and B, have finished my first playthrough, I'll actually be streaming a playthrough of Veilguard very, very soon. I do want to wrap up my Inquisition playthrough that I was playing on there because I don't feel like I can play female Lavellan Inquisitor and have them in Dav without actually finishing that playthrough and finishing that romance with Solus. But you can also find me on the Avengers audio drama where I play the Wasp, and that is on Spotify. It is on Apple Podcasts and a few other places as well.
All right, Crimson Knight.
Hello, I'm Crimson Knight, and you can find me on Discord.
All right. CW Roger 6.
You can find me on basically every social media platform that's worth having, and a few that aren't, at CW Roger 6. It's the same across the board, and it's the same as my name in Discord. You can find all the various 10,000 things that I do there. Particularly TikTok. We have been on a chronological journey through the entire Dragon Age series. That has been on pause for a week or two while I play the Veilguard, but it is coming back. We're going to be diving into Awakening and the material surrounding that. Also in Fandom Spaces, I have 2 Star Wars podcasts. I am the co-host of the Gold Squadron Gaze podcast, and I'm a cast member on the TTRPG podcast For Light and Dice. I play the character of Wynn.
Wild Kiwi?
I really have nothing to shout out outside of the fact that I haunt the Discord, so that's about it.
All right, and then Ambrosian.
So I am Jay or Ambrosian, pretty much just on Discord right now for the moment.
Yeah, all right. And you can find me on Discord. You can find me on this show or the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can, or the Holocron Histories podcast that I also do. And so you can hang out with us there, and you can hang out with us on Discord. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at DA Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's easily the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. You can find us there on patreon.com/DragonAgeLorecast.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Have you ever wanted to deep dive into the lore and stories behind all your favorite Marvel movies? Then do we have the show for you? I'm Captain Shenko.
And I'm Psych88. Join us as we dissect the media megalith that is the MCU. We'll talk about the origin stories, the fights, and everything in between.
The MCU Lorecast releases on all major podcasting platforms on Mondays as part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club and can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.